political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. You're moving so fast, but baby, you know not where. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo.
All right. The incredible light workers. Let me talk. We'll talk about them sometime a little deeper. And let's see. Glad to see everybody back. I want to call this the first episode. So let's kind of run through something real quick. I want to welcome everybody to the premiere episode of Let's Get Wild. I appreciate everyone joining in. I'm your host, Dell Cullum. What I wish to accomplish here on this live stream podcast is to create a fun and interesting and informative place for folks to gather on a Sunday late afternoon and children on a Saturday morning and talk about items and issues regarding wildlife and, more importantly, coexisting with wildlife during the busy spring and summer seasons. This gathering place is open to folks everywhere, but is specifically tailored to the folks on the East End of Long Island, New York. Two reasons for this. First, the East End of Long Island has many unique landscapes and a large population of many wildlife species. Second, it's from where I'm from Amagansett, and I'm very familiar with the unique situations folks find themselves in when trying to coexist with wildlife, and I can help. I'm here to try and solve the issues, give you peace of mind and some good advice so you can enjoy your summer on the East End. And at the same time, share some great information and usable knowledge about the beautiful and amazing wildlife we are all so lucky to share the world with. Meanwhile, folks, although it's my pleasure, I'm doing this for the communities around the country or everywhere. I presently have a modest wildlife rescue and rehab operation, my wife and I, and we educate students as often as possible. I have never charged for my rescue, rehab, and educational visits over the past 30 plus years. But now that I'm semi-retired due to some disabilities, I'm still going to foot the bill the best I can. I am, however, going to ask folks who care to donate to my continuing wildlife services, whether it be through podcasts, live streams, and my wife and I doing rehab whenever we can here where we are. Every little bit helps. Okay, so thanks. I did want to also let you folks know that we are actually where I'm from. I'm actually recording from, let me show you. I'm going to show you another view of my camera here real quick. There you go. And you can see that I'm filming over here with, I can look out the window and I can see the pond. What pond? Well, that's Hardwick Pond, folks. And here's another camera view right here. And that shows you where I'm recording from. Well, that's kind of crazy, right? I'm in Hardwick, Massachusetts. That's correct. That's where I've been living the past 5 years. But my hometown is Amagansett, New York. And prior to here, we left the Hamptons where we had a very good wildlife rescue and rehab and removal operation, as well as a nonprofit rescue and rehab operation. And when we left and decided to come up north here, I promised the folks back home that I would always be available to them. And fortunately, they took advantage of that. And all year round, I get calls from folks over and over, many calls, many calls. And that's fine. I've enjoyed every one. I've answered every call, I believe, and done the best to answer any questions or give peace of mind. But I thought this would be an easier way. Do a live stream broadcast, a podcast, whatever way I decide to do it. We had some earlier issues trying to get the live stream situated, but I think we got it good. So, folks, welcome to the first episode of Let's Get Wild with Dell Cullum. And I am your host, Dell Cullum. So I welcome you. And here we are. Okay, so we had a test, and then we had a complete failure yesterday on our first episode. Everything went bad, but we got to the studio last night and they fixed everything up and they told us how to run this thing. So I think it's going to be good, but still bear with me. I'm by myself and I'm doing it all myself. So with that being said, what I'd like to do is let you know one more quick thing is that this is the Sunday at 5 is going to be for adults or older, younger adults who are interested in maybe this field, the field of wildlife rehabilitation or rescue, or even maybe in the future getting involved in animals in other ways, veterinarians perhaps, or zoologists or biologists, what have you. Whatever the case, I want to keep this so for the adults so we can talk about topics that may be a little bit too much for the kids. But because I had such an outpouring from some of the families back on the Eastern End that are friends of mine and always been supporters that have young children that I used to educate or go to school, go to their schools with their older children now, when they were younger, and talk to them with Athena, the owl I used to visit the schools with. I thought that maybe I would do a kids show too. So on Saturdays at 10 a.m. to 10:20, about a 20-minute show, we're going to do a little thing. Let's Get Wild for kids only. Okay. And then, of course, Sunday at 5, we're going to do our hour long, and I'm going to try to keep it an hour long. This might go just a little over because of that long introduction. But because I invited both adults and kids to join in on this first episode, I just want to keep it very friendly. If you want to ever want to call in or use the chat function, or if you ever have any questions that you want to ask me, I need you to send in your questions. I need you to send in your photographs or drawings or art projects or anything that has to do with wildlife. If you're having a problem and you want to have it answered, if you just want to know about a particular animal a little bit more, maybe my opinion on a particular wildlife or animal situation, please, folks, please. Email me at this address right here, and we will absolutely answer your question here on the podcast. Okay. And as soon as when we do the live stream, when we announce that and we do it, we'll actually take in phone calls live, as well as our guests will come in remotely live. Okay. So what I'd like to do first is go over some of the topics from last week. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is answer questions from last week. Let me take a sip of water real quick. The questions last week, we had 4 of them, okay? And I'm going to show you some pictures as we roll along here. So we were talking about pets. Which is, you'll see the next question. But I extended it by saying that was a very similar question about the red-eared slider turtle. Many of you may be familiar. This is a picture of a baby red-eared slider. Many people get them as gifts, or they see them at a pet store and they think it's a wonderful thing for their children to learn to have a pet and take care of, and it is. However, these turtles, they grow to be very big. They do eat a lot of food to get that big, and they live quite long. So usually when they get to be big enough where sometimes kids lose interest maybe, or start to feel that taking care of them is a bit of a burden, these turtles either get, as we've heard before, flushed down the toilet, which is horrible enough, but to be just released into the wild. Well, in this circumstance, the red-eared slider was able to acclimate to the climate up here in the Northeast, and it kind of takes over. It's from the Southeast, okay, and it takes over the aquatic vegetation. It eats it up a lot quicker than the native turtles out here. So it deprives them of what they need to survive in their native land. So that makes the red-eared slider an invasive species, okay, rather than a native species. And being an invasive species, there's not many recourses other than to have them euthanized when they're caught, or in a worse term, which I mentioned last week. It wasn't my term, but it was said that it was recommended they be destroyed. And I think that was a New York State DEC term. You'd think there'd be something easier. After all, these turtles didn't ask to be placed in this situation, but they can't remain here. Actually, more importantly, because of the painted turtle, which is this right here. And this is our native turtle. Okay, and look how beautiful this turtle is. I mean, the red and the darker color shells, and the yellow bottoms, and there's all sorts of different patterns, but the coloring is amazing. They're equally as beautiful, and I'm not saying there's something wrong with the looks of the red-eared slider, but they don't belong here. So what can you do? What can you do? Okay, you find these turtles, you get them, or your child's tired of them in the tank. What do you do besides letting them go? Well, if that animal has become a burden to you at no reason of theirs, I think the burden should be extended onto you. And here's the thing you should do. Here, you should take that turtle, either find a shelter, or that'll take it, or bring it to a pet store and give it to them. Now, don't ask to be paid for it. They'll laugh at you. Okay, you got to give it to them, and if you're lucky, they'll take it, because then it becomes 100% profit for them to sell it again. Whereas, you did the right thing. Okay, you didn't destroy it, but you, I guess you could say you're recycling it, which is another horrible way to put it. But folks, this wasn't even my recommendation. I thought it was probably the best. Put the burden back on the person that took on the responsibility to begin with, and at least have them try to contact a shelter. Okay, and that would be my best advice. So I also did add this slide here. It shows you the difference between the two. Of course, the red-eared slider has that one little red patch behind the eye that looks like a red ear, while the other one looks similar but doesn't have that patch of red on its face. Our native painted turtle, but rather has the red on the edge of the shell, and sometimes underneath as well. Oh gosh, they're so beautiful, those painted turtles. Okay, let me move on, because the original question, okay, folks, was this. Gerbils and hamsters. The question was for kids who get pets, gerbils and hamsters, what's some of the do's and don'ts? Okay, now this is a wildlife show, but why am I talking about pets so much? Well, I'm going to tell you why. It's important. The problem that we have with a lot of invasive species is because of the exotic pet trade. And what I mean by that, if you buy a pet that isn't originally from here, is not a native animal, and you release it into the wild, it becomes an invasive species. And it can do a lot of damage to native species and to human impact and a lot of other things. It can really create a lot of problems, as you see down in the Everglades right now, the problem they're having with pythons. Because of so many were let go and they're thriving in that habitat. So now they're having a problem gathering them all up. They have babies way too fast. They lay way too many eggs at a time, and it's very difficult to keep up with it. So how do we keep this from happening? Well, we talk about it a little bit. After all, these animals are wild animals. They're just not wild animals here in America. In fact, the gerbil and the hamster are both wild animals in China or Siberia. I think one of them is in Mongolia. I think the hamster. Okay, so it's interesting to talk a little bit about them and know that, in fact, well, they are wild animals, but when they're here, they're pets. If you release them back into the wild, which we don't want you to do, and that's why we talk about it, because then they become an invasive species. Just like dogs and cats are relatives of wild species, even gerbils and hamsters are wild. So I really do think it's important that we talk about it. All right. A gerbil, for example, is a diurnal animal. Okay. It's active all day, sleeps most of the night, should not be kept as a pet alone. In fact, they should have another gerbil friend to have some sort of social activity with. However, I suggest a same-sex friend. That way you won't be breeding. Okay. And I think that'll give them a better quality of life. All right. For a small mammal in a cage anyway. And you should keep them in an aquarium because they need some thick shaving, deep shaving, so that they can dig and tunnel. That's what they like to do. They live about 3 to 4 years. So folks, again, don't release these things into the wild. You took on a responsibility. You gotta teach the youngsters to follow through with these things. A hamster, on the other hand, I found was interesting. I've never had a gerbil or a hamster, and I found it interesting that the hamster, although very similar, is a nocturnal animal, okay? And they sleep all day and want to play all night. They live about 2 to 3 years and prefer to be by themselves. So they're quite different than the gerbil. Had no idea they were so different. They do like to tunnel, but they prefer more running on those metal wheels, the wheels. They love that. You throw a wheel in there. Of course, you don't want to put anything plastic in there. They are voracious chewers, and they'll chew it. They will get sick. I also advise you don't put any cotton toys in there, little fluffy toys. They rip them apart. They get that cotton fluff. They can choke on that. It is a choking hazard for them. No cedar shavings, no pine shavings as well. Those are toxic. And you don't bathe a hamster or a gerbil in water, okay? Much like a reptile. In fact, you use the same type of thing. It's called reptile sand. There might be other names for it, but you do a small, shallow dish of the sand, which is really a fine, usually white sand, and that's how many small mammals and even some birds, that's how they bathe or dust themselves. And in this case, that's what you do. No water on them. Do not release these animals back into the wild. I can't say that enough, but I really appreciate that, folks. Okay. The next question, well, I'm going to have the person that wanted to ask the question. I'm going to have him come online and ask the question himself. His name is Vince. He's down in Key Largo, Florida. And Vince, go ahead and ask your question.
Got a question from Key Largo for you. Last week we had a little wind come through here and it knocked one of the squirrel nests out of the coconut tree. Came out, we found 4 baby squirrels in the nest on the ground. And we weren't quite sure what to do with them. So basically what we did was we gathered them up, put them in a box, and the girls, they wanted to feed them, but I didn't know what to feed them and how much. So basically what we did was we put them in a box and we screwed it high up on a coconut tree and was hoping for the best. The next morning we came out and they were gone. So hopefully we did the right thing. So if there's anything we could have done differently or better, please let me know. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Hey, thank you. Thank you for that. That was a great question. Boy, that was good. And let me tell you, the answer is no, you couldn't have did anything better. You did everything perfectly. You did everything perfectly. And let me tell you why. First of all, very, very smart by putting the animal up on top like that. And then I'll tell you one thing, a couple things actually. It was a great idea. This happens all the time. A lot of times people will just take the baby squirrels in, which is, if you know how to take care of them properly, that's fine, but they do have to get in the wild. You don't want these animals as domestic pets. They just don't do well like that. Let them be wild and come to you if you want to feed peanuts to them and stuff, but don't try to make them a domestic pet. You did everything perfectly, okay? Because the babies didn't have their eyes open, and first I should say, Mama comes back at night, okay? That's when she comes back at night. She checks the dray. The dray's gone. What happened? Her babies are gone. She comes back down. She'll find the babies. They're in that box, okay? However she wants to do it, if she wants to bring them to another place, she will, one at a time, but most often she'll bring them back up to the tree into what's left of the dray. And when I say the dray, I mean the squirrel's nest. That's what it's called. And she'll bring it up. She'll bring the babies up there, one by one. So what's important? You kept it off the ground. That was really smart. We do that with baby owls because actually, screech owls and all owls will, because of their giant talons on their feet, they will literally walk down a tree, grab the baby out of a box, and bring it back up the tree and put the owlet in the hole in the tree. And we keep them off the ground to keep them away from predators. I know your area. You have a lot of iguanas. You got other predators as well as not to mention crocodiles. It was a good thing hanging it up on the tree. They weren't so super active that they would have jumped out of the box. So smart. You did a really good job. The only thing I want you to know further is and I know it wasn't the case there in Key Largo, Florida, but if you're ever in this situation and it's cold outside, you may want to take a plastic bag, a Ziploc baggie, put some warm water in it, or even a water bottle with some warm water, and wrap it in a t-shirt, okay, or a rag. Never put it in with the babies just with the bottle. You have to wrap that bottle in some sort of a t-shirt or a rag and let the warmth radiate out of that, and then they'll cuddle up against it. And keep them warm, because that's what Mama's going to want when she comes back down to get those babies. She's going to want them warm, because if they're too cold, they may be dead, or she'll think they might be dead. So sometimes there's issues with that. So that's what I would do different for somebody who finds them in a colder climate. Other than that, you did a really good job. You and your granddaughter, and I appreciate you asking that question. Because look, folks, you might think it sounds like a great idea to raise these animals. Sure, you can feed them once or twice a day. What more could they literally want? Maybe throw some lettuce in there, a carrot. I don't know, maybe a Cheerio. All right. That's not how these animals, that's not how you raise that's not how wild animals are raised. Okay. You don't feed them Cheerios and lettuce. Squirrels have their own way of being raised by their mother, and you have to abide by that, or else when you do release them in the wild, they're going to be really messed up, and they're going to have a lot worse problems surviving from your teachings. So it's best to let a professional or someone at the look, there's a lot of licensed rehabbers out there that can help you. Try to reach out to one if you know one. If you ever meet one, keep their number. They're good to have. And then, of course, get to know your local place. And you have a great one down there in Hampton Bays. So be sure to do that. All right, folks, let me just see what my notes tell me here. Okay, we had one more question, which was a very important question, and we're going to lead this into our special guest. Okay, folks. All right, now I'm going to put up this graphic here, and I want you to take a look at that. And I'm not going to really need to explain too much to you, only that the brown colors is the areas that tick-borne disease and illness is most significant. And if you looked close at the Long Island, it's completely dark. It's as dark as it'll go to show that it is one of the highest tick-borne illness recorded locations in the entire United States. And for that reason, I want to get into our last question from last week, which is a great question. But it's one you hear way too often, and that is the question was, Dell, how do we tick-proof our yard in Amagansett? Well, in Amagansett, doesn't matter where you are on the East End, this answer is going to apply. And you've heard all these answers. You've heard them a million times. You've tried a million products. You've tried a million things. And nothing seems to work, or some things work, but you want to be extra careful, or you don't want to use certain products. What do you do to make your yard the safest for you and your children, or you and your pets, or everybody to live comfortably in your yard and not have to fear the ticks? And you see in this graphic here, it's important to identify the tick. If you ever find one on you, if you've been bitten by one, hopefully you can just see it and pull it off and throw it back, or throw it away, or do whatever you got to do with them, but whatever's suggested. But to answer the question, I thought it would be best to bring in somebody special who we're going to have on the show tons of times. She's just going to come on and talk about this one particular subject, but she's so full of knowledge on this subject that I realized that she's more than a special guest. She's going to be a special recurring guest. And I want to get her to answer this question instead of me giving you some generic, maybe some do-it-yourself formulas or tricks of the trade in the pesticide industry. Those aren't the right ways to keep your lawn safe. So let's ask somebody who knows a little bit more. Folks, I want to introduce to you literally one of my all-time favorite people. She was my teacher. She was my film and my book wordsmith. Pretty much everything I do in the film or writing books, she goes over and she makes me sound like I actually can talk like a literary scholar. Look, above all, as a mentor, and above all, my dearest friend, Patricia Hope. Patricia Hope, welcome to the show. I'm going to split the screen here so we can see you. There we go. Hello, my dear, and thank you for coming and talking to us about the ticks. Okay, so what can you tell us? What can you tell us about keeping our yards and our children and our pets safe? Let us know, Pat. I'm going to turn it over to you.
For the children on the property, whether or not it's merely lawn or wooded, this spray is called Tickwise. It's made by Three Moms Organic. It's made and sold in East Hampton, and it's very, very good. You spray it all over the kids, their shoes and socks and legs, bare skin. It's fine. Contains no poison and it repels ticks. It's good stuff. When you're walking with your dog or on a hike in the woods, which people do out here, because I got a net suit, very, very good product. It's lightweight, absolutely foolproof. It's called C2 Summit, SEATOSUMMIT. It's a net suit and it's relatively inexpensive. It lasts forever, it doesn't tear, and you will not be bitten by a tick when you have this on. It's got a hood, good zippers. Those Aussies know what they're doing. This is my second best friend. It's it's this clear tape. Take this tape to your dog's bed every day and see what the dog is picking up. I'm a fan of evidence. I think evidence does good things for style. So I'm living with the ticks. I want to know what I'm living with. I want to know of the 3 species, which stage of each species. Am I dealing with chiggers? Am I dealing with deer ticks? What am I looking at? My major instruction here is let's look at what we're looking at. If you have a lawn that you want to keep free from ticks, fence off the lawn, fence it. Don't let the blood-bearing mammals in. Don't let the rabbits in, fence it off. And cut it low. Cut it way low so the ticks have nowhere to go. They're not going to be happy. Now, you're still probably going to get some ticks, but they're going to leave as soon as they can because they're not going to be happy with your place. So guard your surroundings. All right, permethrin is a poison that people find popular because it works on ticks, but it also works on butterflies and moths and grasshoppers and praying mantises. It kills insects. It kills all the insects. It kills the pollinators. Do not use permethrin. It's poison for pollinators. You're going to help kill off the world if you use permethrin. Semicolon. That said, you can get cream or ointment that you can use on your own body, sure, and spray a little bit, smear a little bit on your legs. You can get personalized permethrin. That said, take a shower immediately, put the clothing immediately in hot water and send it around twice. You don't want this stuff in your life.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I appreciate everything you do for me, and of course, always happy to have your support. And I always love listening to you. You've been a great teacher throughout my whole life, and you continue to be, and I enjoy that. All right, folks, I'm going to do something. Before I get into the topic of the week, I want to do something real quick for the younger viewers and maybe some of the older viewers. I don't know. I enjoy this kind of stuff, but I'm going to show you a skull here. All right. You can see the size of it in my fingers. Okay, I'll show you look at those teeth. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to show you a picture of it here, give you a better idea. And I would like, and normally in a live stream situation, when we do our live stream, I would ask you folks if you can tell me what that animal is. And when we do that, we're going to give the winner a special prize. In fact, I did want to play a sound for you. you know? Of course, that's a gray squirrel. All right, folks. So that's what I'm going to do once we get the live stream going. I'm going to show you a skull, maybe play a sound, maybe even show you a footprint. And the first person who guesses it, okay, will get a book of mine right here, The Wild Adventures of Scurry the Squirrel. And I've got a bunch of them here. This was my book I did with Michelle Mott, an incredible illustrator. And inside, the one we'll send you while I have them is autographed by me and Michelle. And in the bottom corner, you see little Scurry, her footprint, okay? Her little autograph. So it's a cool little book. And when we play our little games on the kids show, we have lots of neat little animal finger puppets and all three episodes or chapters of the book. Okay. So those will go out for some of the younger viewers and when I do a game deal for the older ones. Okay. And the reason I like to show the skull is I like to talk about the teeth on some of these animals. It's very important, and especially with the squirrel. The squirrel's teeth, not the only animal that has this issue, but the squirrel's teeth never stop growing. Okay, we're just going to talk about the squirrel here. And because of that, they can run into problems if they don't have something to every day to work on their teeth, to file them down and keep them short and manageable in their mouth. One of those things is being fed too many peanuts. Okay, so I wanted to make sure you folks understood that I'm a big fan of feeding the squirrels. However, you have to let the squirrels find their own primary sources of food. That's important because they have to survive in the winter. And I'm sure you don't want to be paying for bags of peanuts your entire life. However, peanuts is not the best thing to do. I feel like if you're going to feed the squirrel, call it a treat. You're giving them treats every now and again, okay? It's not their main source of food. It's just a little a treat when they come by the home. You can't use just peanuts. Peanuts are legumes. They're soft. They do nothing for their teeth. And if they get too many of those and they don't get enough of the hard nuts, like hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, perhaps, even walnuts are the best. Okay. Or, of course, they're native acorns. Otherwise, they'll use hard branches. They like to chew on anything that's hard. Typically, cherry wood and apple wood is the hardest. But they certainly enjoy other woods to give them that maintenance for their teeth. Just like we brush our teeth to maintain them and floss, they have to chew to keep them filed down so they don't get what's called a malocclusion. Okay, and a malocclusion, here's a picture of a squirrel with a severe malocclusion, but also a misalignment of their tooth. But and you can see it also has a problem with the tip of that tooth being sharp. It's going to have major problems. It's not filing its teeth down properly, and they could literally grow up into the skin, roof of the mouth, or down through the bottom of the chin. And it's severely painful. And in the wild, they can't survive because they can't eat. They can't eat, they starve. Okay, so a normal squirrel's mouth, of course, would look like this, and this is a perfect mouth. And that's what you're seeing in that skull is that teeth set up there, where the back teeth set right up on top of the back of the upper teeth. Okay, and that's proper. So how can you help your favorite squirrels maintain their dental practices and not get too hung up on your peanuts that don't help their teeth? Well, I made this little film a while back, and I thought I'd let you see it real quick. Kind of will give you an example on how you can help your favorite squirrels help keep their teeth healthy and safe. I'm a big fan of peanuts.
Peanuts, get your peanuts here.
However, peanuts are soft. They're legumes.
Legumes.
What squirrels need are hard-shell nuts to help keep their teeth filed down properly, because their teeth continue to grow constantly. So eating the
Legumes.
although a tasty treat, not necessarily what's good for them. Now, try this one. Scooter. Scooter just took an almond. It's a little bit more of a grinding on the teeth to get to the actual nut. Natural world, they would do this on hard acorn shells. Or perhaps maybe even branches, sticks, or like cherry wood is a favorite of theirs. Not only does it have a really kind of a nice flavor, but it also is a hard wood, and it will actually wear down their teeth as they gnaw on it. And that's the whole purpose. That's why it's important that if you do feed the squirrels, you mix those soft peanuts with hard shell nuts. That's what the squirrels really need. Without them, they'd be in big trouble. They literally have a malocclusion where their teeth would literally grow up into their roof of their mouth or down through the bottom of their chin and their jaw, and it looks as horrible as it must be painful. So for those awesome people out there who love to feed our awesome squirrels, make sure you mix your hard nuts in with your legumes.
Legumes.
And that way everyone's happy, and you can sit there and eat peanuts with them as well. Okay, we'll see you on the next squirrel tip from Hampton Wildlife. All right, that was kind of fun. That, of course, was Scooter. Scooter was a wonderful little rehab squirrel we kept, and we released her into the wild, but she never wanted to leave. So she hung around. Eventually she left. Took her a while though, and she thought she was just one of the family there for a little bit. Anyway, folks, it's important to know, even when you see that, these were rehab squirrels. I do like to show them to people because they are fun to watch, but it's not always really the proper thing. As long as I feel it's okay, as long as I give this little disclaimer. But it really is important that folks understand that squirrels in the wild, they do pick up wild bugs, and they do carry fleas and ticks. Their nails can scratch you and they can bite you, which is a really, really good solid pinch, that's for sure. They also, it's very important to know their pee can carry the bacterial disease leptospirosis. And of course, their droppings can be contaminated with salmonellosis, which most animals, that's the case, both of which can be transmitted to humans, okay? Scooter just was one of those squirrels that was rehabbed by us and taken care of. So we didn't have to worry about some of those things. But it is important for kids and adults to know and understand, please don't touch the squirrels, okay? Like I said, let them be wild. And if you feed them when they want to get closer or take a peanut out of their hand, never go and try to grab them. You will get hurt. It's a guarantee. All right. Don't let that happen. They won't want to be your friend if that's the way you're going to start the friendship. All right, folks, look, topic of the week, Sarcoptic mange. Sarcoptic mange. All right. There are a few types of mange, but Sarcoptic mange is what we're going to discuss this week. The reason is I've already had a call about a fox they saw in going across their property. Looked very ragged. They showed me a picture, and sure enough, it was mange. As the summer progresses, mange is going to even kick in worse as the warmer weather. And you're going to start seeing foxes running around out there on the east end, maybe even some squirrels and other animals, but specifically the foxes. And they'll have mange, and it gets sometimes really bad, and they get frightening looking. Sometimes folks will think they're rabid or they're sick, or some of them don't even think they're foxes. They've been called coyotes, wolves. I've had calls all the way down to chupacabra. So they do. It's not a pleasant thing to see. It can also, if you're not frightened by it, you're absolutely will be heartbroken by it. These animals can be helped, but I want you to understand what's going on first, so you'll understand what's happening with the animals. Okay, that's why we're going to cover a little ground on this. Mange is a highly contagious, intensely itchy skin disease caused by microscopic Sarcoptic scabies mites. It's hard to say with the missing tooth, that burrow into the skin and specifically into the hair follicles where they eat the base of them. And of course, the hair falls out and there's hair loss because, of course, untreated, it can lead to hair loss, dry and cracking skin, which can be very severe. And then, of course, the secondary infections, which can be fatal, like hypothermia and starvation. Okay, hypothermia from lack of hair and skin covering. Hair loss begins at the tail and the legs first, as shown in this picture. Okay, and then, of course, the skin hardens, and then it cracks, and then it bleeds, and then it becomes very painful, as you can see in this picture here. Okay, and other signs will be a loss of fear towards humans, mostly because they can't see them, or they're just in such pain they just don't care at this point. Sometimes folks will see them sunbathing right out in the middle of the day around a pool even, and they get nervous. But this is them trying to absorb heat. Most of the time, they're so cold at night. They have no hair. They have no thermal control, so they absorb as much heat as they can on the hot stones during the day. But this is all signs of the effects of mange. Mange can be transmitted to dogs as well as humans. However, on humans, it's called scabies. And because it cannot complete its life cycle on just skin alone, symptoms can be mild and treated with antibacterial and antiparasitic treatments. This is what it would look like on humans. And so you could see that it can be confused with maybe some other issues, rashes that you might get frequently. On wildlife, particularly red fox, even a treatment from a vet or wildlife professional can take weeks or months to cure the fox. Okay, so protect your dogs, and even for preventable for wildlife, you can, the best thing to use is unrefined coconut oil. Okay, it's great. It smothers the scabies mites and soothes the skin at the same time, and it's all natural. Of course, it's not going to be easy to rub in the nice calming effects of coconut oil to a red fox who's in a lot of pain. You can check out the products like dogs would use. Check the weight, of course, and make sure you get the right approximate weight. And sometimes products like NexGard and Bravecto, I've used them. They work great. And of course, they don't last forever, but they'll treat a variety of things: scabies mites, fleas, ticks, and a lot of other critters that are crawling around under the hair and above the skin of a wild animal. So, although I'm not recommending you give these products to wild animals, I'm just telling you they do work for your pets. And I myself have used them on wild animals, and they've worked just lovely. In at least killing and deleting the sarcoptic mange, anyway. Mange, fleas, and ticks. I'm not quite certain about really everything else, but those it will work on. Okay. Another common species that often gets mange is the gray squirrel. But in this case, you have to make absolutely certain that the infection is mange and not molting. Okay. Because sometimes a squirrel molting can have similar appearances to a squirrel having patches of lost hair. Mange, but you got to know the difference, and you have to be sure, because some of the treatments you don't want to use on an animal if in fact they don't have mange. I'll get into that in a second. But once you are sure whether it's mange or not, and of course I'm showing you a couple pictures here that'll show you the difference in what it looks like. Not the best picture of the molting. Of course, they can molt a lot more around the body, and it does tend to look a lot of times like a mange. But you just have to know the squirrel, the characteristics, and does it look healthy otherwise or otherwise not? Okay, so again, unrefined coconut oil is natural. It's great. Chunk of coconut, give it a shot. It's antifungal and antibacterial. So even if you have to try covering a walnut with some coconut oil and then giving it to the squirrel, that's a great natural way. It might take a little longer, but it certainly isn't going to allow the mange to get out of control. It'll keep it at bay and try to slowly work those mites out of the skin and off the body. Another item I've used successfully is called ivermectin gel. Okay. The only thing here, I'm going to show you a picture there, and then I also want to show you this. I would really like if you guys are interested in the stuff, this is the only place I've been able to find it. Okay. And it's a little tiny jar, and you'll get a matchstick as well, which is really cool because that's all you're going to be using. You're going to literally take a matchstick and take a little tiny dab of the ivermectin gel. And you're going to put it on the meat of a walnut. You'll break open the walnut, put it on the meat, and you'll get your mangy squirrel to come over and eat that. And when he does, he's taken his first dose. Okay. And then we're going to work on a second dose. So let me go back to here, and I'm going to go over a couple things real quick. Because ivermectin is a neurotoxin, and dosage is key to proper usage. So you just want to use the tip of just get a little swab off the matchstick and slather it onto the meat of a walnut. Obviously, it's not something you want children to mess around with, okay? So this is not something I want the kids to be touching. This is a really good way of killing the mange in your favorite squirrels, okay? Yeah, 1 or 2 treatments, and the squirrel should be fine. If you can do it a week apart and get them to take a second dose, they don't mind the taste of it. Just getting the same target animal. When I say target animal, I mean the animal you intend to medicate is the animal that you want to get that medication. You do not want another squirrel that doesn't have mange to come and get that nut full of ivermectin. So you have to be really careful about that stuff, folks. But once you do, you can pretty much solve that situation. Now, I do want to tell you a little story of a squirrel that we did, so I can show you the kind of the timeline of how that worked out. So here's a picture of our rehab squirrel. We called it Scratch. And of course, Scratch, you can see its whole back is full of mange, has eaten away at the back hair follicles, and the hair has been has fallen out. Scratch obviously is named because he scratches all the time, and his skin is beginning to crack and bleed in places. So we got this stuff. It's ivermectin drops. Okay. and we did follow the directions. Put a drop on some walnut meat, and we got them to got Scratch to take it. And there you can see Scratch at, let me see, this was a week and a half. Okay, showing some good improvement. Then the next picture is at 2.5 weeks. Okay. And then finally at 3.5 weeks, you could see Scratch is no longer Scratch, actually. He didn't have to scratch anymore. He cleared up his mange really good. He was fine. He didn't even hang around. Once he got better, he kind of just moseyed on out and lived a good scratch-free life, I hope, okay? So whether you're dealing with squirrels or you're dealing with foxes, in the case that we just talked about, animals with mange can use our help, not by making them more stressed out, of course, chasing after them, but call a wildlife rehabilitator, folks, okay? Great wildlife operations you have, or any of your rehabilitators, report to them the location and the time of day, and even take a picture if you can. And if you can get that information to a rehabber or a licensed rehabber, possibly they can go and try to trap the animal and get it the help it totally deserves. Where they can treat it, get it better, and then release it back into the wild. Okay, and that's what we want to do. That's always a goal of a wildlife rehabilitator. And that's the end of the topic of the week segment, folks. I want to just go right into our next segment, which is wildlife picture of the week. I had a few. I want to talk to you about it. This first one I'm showing you here was interesting. I had so much fun when the person, I don't remember who it was a gentleman or a young woman who called in and was excited. They had this picture. They had no idea what it was. They thought it was a new species of deer. I told them no, it was in fact a white-tailed deer that had a color mutation called pieballism. And it was in fact a piebald deer. The person had never heard of that. So not only was it a joy to let this person know what it was, but also let them know it was something that they had never heard about. What an amazing feeling that must have been. So, folks, I am going to talk about that next week. I thought it would be a great subject for the topic of the week. We're going to talk about the color mutations in animals and why this happens. And I know there's some black squirrels up in Springs that people see all the time. And folks might be wondering, how come we see them in Springs, we don't see them in Montauk or in other places? Well, I think I can answer that for you. So we're going to talk about that next week. Meanwhile, folks, I want you to send in your pictures. I want you to send them to the email you're seeing below so that I can show the folks here, some wonderful, talented folks, whether it's a photograph, a drawing, an art project. I'd love to see them. Please send them to me so I can show folks. This one is a beautiful picture of a hummingbird, was sent in to me by my cousin, Jane Smith, who's out in Ontario, Canada. And I wanted to get you the name of the town she lives in, and I didn't write it down. So we're going to get that. I asked Jane to send in pictures from time to time. Jane doesn't even have a website. She's a very modest wildlife photographer who takes some incredible pictures. Here's another one of what appears to be a great blue heron. Amazing pictures of wildlife photography, and I love wildlife photography. So to get pictures like this is to me has always been really amazing, and I'd love to see what you guys can come up with. Jane, I'd love you to continue sending in pictures, and I even had somebody text me and say I would love to have Jane come on and talk about how she gets she is able to take such incredible wildlife photographs. And I thought that was another great subject we can go over, even on the kids show. I'm going to show you one more picture, folks. Here's a picture of mine. It's a picture of an eastern chipmunk with a eastern cottontail rabbit. And I just wanted to go over this real quick because I had one last person contact me during the week. Her name was Barbara, and Barbara had something so cool happen. Barbara's dog brought in a baby rabbit, and it wasn't injured. She checked it real good, no punctures, no bleeding. So she went outside, couldn't find the nest, and then she contacted me, and I said, Barbara, maybe put the dog back on the leash, bring it outside, and it'll lead you to the nest. Well, she did that, and the dog still thought it was in trouble. So the first attempt didn't really go over too well. The second attempt, however, did, and the dog went right for the nest and sniffed it right out. She found it and put the baby back in. They all cuddled up around it, and she covered the nest. And I think Mama came back. It was almost towards the evening time. So Mama had come back, and she took a picture and sent it to me. So mission accomplished. Another great successful reuniting, because very difficult to rehabilitate rabbits, whether you are a professional rehabilitator or not. Very, very difficult. So you always want to let Mama do it. At which point she asked me, she said, Dell, have you ever heard of that laundry basket trick to keep dogs from getting into the rabbit, but allowing Mama to come in? I said, absolutely. So I pulled this up, folks. If you want to take a picture of it or screenshot, I think it's important. It shows you a good setup where Mama can go in and out of the basket and tend to her babies, and it's weighted down on top so that dogs and other animals can't flip it over. Of course, this one isn't weighted down. Maybe they had a smaller dog, but I'll show you some other variations that show people have no problem protecting these bunny nests. It doesn't take long, folks. Once their eyes open and they leave the nest, another few days, and they're out seeking their own place to live and their own mate, so they can begin doing what bunnies do so often. Okay, so that's called the basket protector for bunnies, and anybody can do it, and there's a lot of varieties, and I hope you'll do that rather than call me and say, hey, Dell, how do I get these baby bunnies out of my yard? My dog wants to play. It's my dog's yard. I can't have this. I'm going to remove them. So, folks, just bear with it. It's not a very long process, literally a couple weeks or so, and they'll be out of your hair. No pun intended. Okay, next thing I wanted to discuss here, let me see. I wanted to just put this up for you folks. A couple cottontail facts, so it gives you an idea that between the months of March and September is when you have to be on the lookout for these nests. Okay, after that, you don't have to worry about it so much, but always check your yard, and if you have dogs, it's not a bad idea. And for anybody who finds a baby bunny or a rabbit or an injured rabbit, here's another little thing that I pulled off the internet for folks. I read it over. It's pretty good. It has everything you need to know. So take a screenshot of that, and you'll have that available. Next, folks, I want to go over a little segment I want to call Events, Protests, and Petitions, okay? I did want to show this one, folks, for my friend Zelda Penzel, who is very adamant about people being up to date on these petitions that get signed. This one is very important. It's been talked about lately on social media. This is kind of an exaggerated picture of a leg hole trap, but this is in fact a leg hole trap. But just picture that without the serrated pointed ends and just metal bars going across, okay? And it's snapping shut. But believe me, they'll snap a leg bone or a hand bone instantly, not to mention break your neck. So it's not something you want going off, and we need to ban these types of traps. They're not necessary, okay? They're using them for bears, Bears are walking around with these things on their leg. It's painful, the cubs especially. But here's another picture of a raccoon. These are in dog-proof leg hold traps, okay? So the dogs don't get hurt, but the wild animals do. Here you're seeing a raccoon has no way of protecting himself. Both his hands are caught in a dog-proof leg hold trap and has no way, while he sits there and waits for the person who trapped him to come, he's vulnerable to any predator to come along and just rip it to pieces because it has no way of defending itself. That's not right. So, folks, we have to contact New York State legislators and have them send them a letter, tell them you want to ban the use of leg hold traps, because we folks here at Let's Get Wild want our raccoons to be happy raccoons, like you see right there. Okay, folks? Happy raccoons. You have tons of raccoons. You're not going to get rid of raccoons on the eastern end of Long Island. Okay, so you need to learn how to coexist with them, not spend your whole summer trying to figure out how these critters that are giving you a headache, how to get rid of them. Don't do it. You'll never win. They're smarter. Okay, you need to come to me and I will tell you how to coexist with these animals. But you have to tune in here to Let's Get Wild with Dell Cullum, and I will tell you how to do it in the Hamptons, in Montauk, in Southampton, all the East End locations where the populations are just way out of control with raccoons. Okay, you need my help, I'll give it to you. You just got to tune in. All right, nothing's. It is free. Everything's free here. Just tune in. That's all you got to do. All right. Next week, folks, we have a great show. That's it for this week. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I want to thank my guest, Patricia Hope. I want to thank my buddy Vince for calling in, doing a great job with his granddaughter, setting a great example with the squirrels that blew out of the coconut tree. But next week, I have an awesome show for you, right? Next week, we're going to talk about birds and bird strikes in the windows, right? We're going to have to talk about how to keep birds from flying into your windows. So next week's topic of the week, we're going to talk about color mutations, pieballism, what makes black squirrels black, what makes white deer white. And we have a beautiful picture from Cousin Jane, who took a picture of a beautiful, solid white piebald deer in Ontario. And I can't wait to show you that picture as well. Our special guest next week, Deb Klugers. We're going to talk about bees, bonnet bees with Deb Klugers. We'll get her on to answer all your questions about that. So anybody who has any special questions, please send them in now, so we'll have them before Saturday, and we'll ask Deb some of those questions. So any honeybee questions or beekeeper questions, let me have them by Saturday. Send them to my email address or text them or put them on the comments on the Let's Get Wild Facebook page. And then, of course, we have the kids show next week, next Saturday, and we're going to show a film on what you should do if you should find a baby fawn out on the ground, as well as we're going to play a little wildlife game as usual. We're going to show some more wildlife photographs. And we're just going to have some good topics for the kids and me to discuss. And I have something special coming up, too, because one of our kids' show, we're going to go take a walk into the woods remotely. And we're going to have a good time and see what we can find out there. All right, folks? So once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and enjoying this little educational project I'm trying to accomplish. I hope you'll tune in each Sunday. I'm going to do this throughout the summer. And as long as you folks join in, I will keep doing it. If you continue after the summer, you still want to talk wildlife, I'll be happy to do it. Okay? Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you all again next week. Thank you. God bless. And remember, wildlife matters.
Taking a walk through an African park one day. I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. You're breathing so hot. A lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making